So when you're talking about ADLs, and we go through the list of ADLs, one of the key points is you always, when you're asking, you always want to use the word pain and restriction relative to the ADL, and you never want to say, so you can't do it at all. As an example, let's say work. You would never want to say, does this bother you at work? You wouldn't want to do that. You want to use, do you have it, does this problem cause any pain or restrictions at work? You want to use the word pain and restrictions. And you would never say this. Does this stop you from working where you can't, this doesn't stop you from, or does this stop you from working where you can't work at all? Here's why. The reason you want to use the word pain and restriction is that's overwhelmingly the perceived words that your target market, the chiropractic patient, uses. Pain and restriction. Would we say the top 3 symptoms were? Patients come in. Pain's always number 1. Muscle spasms. Restrictions. Restrictions. Decreased motion. Pain and restrictions are what's on their mind. It's what they say. It's what they're experiencing. So how much sense does it make to use those words if that's the words your target market or your patients use? How much sense does that make? 100%. Thank you. Use those words. Pain or restrictions. Now what's the reason you never want to say you can't do that at all? Whether it's work or bathing, showering, whatever. You know, that's not the chiropractic patient. The chiropractic patient can still do activities. It is very rare, in my experience, it's like 1 new patient a month that literally cannot do the activity. In other words, can't do the activity of daily living. Because when they cannot do that activity of daily living, where do they go? Hospital. They go to the emergency room. Yeah. Is that the chiropractic patient? No. The chiropractic patient is the person who can still do activities. They have pain and restrictions with activities. That's overwhelming the chiropractic patient. And that's why. Because guess what you're going to set yourself up for? If you're always asking, does this stop you from working? Guess what you're always going to get? False negatives. You're going to get no's to a lot of answers. In other words, it's a positive test, but the way you asked it and how you asked it, they're saying no. As opposed to saying, do you have pain and restrictions with work? You're going to get a lot of yeses with that. Do you understand the difference? So do not, when you do ask about problems, stick with the words pain and restriction with ADLs. I'm talking about in the category of ADLs. Use ADLs and never say you can't do that. Now, if they do, I may follow up with it, but I'll never start with, does this stop you from working? I'll never start there, because what percentage of the chiropractic market is that? 3% maybe. It's a real small percent. So I'll never start with that. So it may go like this. Do you have any pain or restrictions with her? Yeah. Then I may do, if they do, I may do a follow-up and go, well, this doesn't stop you from working, does it? See, there's a difference. After we've got them to acknowledge that, yeah, it is a problem, and then I'm going deeper to see how much of a problem it is, versus coming right out of the chute going, this doesn't stop you from working. They go, no. And then you moving past that category. Yeah. You totally missed the category now. Yeah. That's called a false negative. It was positive, but because you asked it wrong, you now have negative responses. So when you're in the ADL categories, always use pain and restrictions, and then you always want to start with the hierarchy. Remember the 4 categories. Work first, sleep, bathing, showering, getting dressed. Those are the top 4 highest probability restricted ADLs that people have to do before they do anything else. The second category is called inside the house activities. And we're going to say that. So it makes it easier to compartmentalize. If I just tried to remember 12 things, it'd be hard to remember 12 things. But if I go, wait a minute, it's 4 different categories. One category is the major ones: work, sleep, bathing, showering, getting dressed. That's like core things you have to do every day. Second category is just inside. Well, what are the main things inside the house? Cooking, cleaning, and laundry. You go, well, what's the main things outside the house? The third category: house maintenance, landscaping, and gardening. Much easier to remember now. And then the last category, hobbies. Those are your 4 big categories in that order of probability of having positive findings, okay? So when you're going through those ADLs, always start with the highest probability first. Work, sleep. Don't jump around. Don't start low. Start with the high. Key. Ask using the words pain or restriction. And then if they do have pain or restriction, and by the way, I'll tell you another little technique. You always want to at least ask twice. Why? What's the rule with second resistances? Remember, when you ask the second time, what happens to the likelihood of the person responding? Goes up over 50%. So I will never just ask once. And I'll not only ask a second time, a lot of times the second time I ask it, I'll ask it in the negative phraseology. What happens with negative phraseology? It pushes it to the surface is what happens. So this is what it sounds like. Do you have any pain or restrictions with work? They go, no. Then I'll do the second resistance in the negative phraseology, and this is what it'll sound like. So you do not have any pain or restrictions with work, do you? Second resistance, negative phraseology, okay? That's the bare minimum of how you want to ask these ADL questions. At least 2, never 1. And when you ask the second time, ask it in a slight negative phraseology. Now, if anything's there, it'll surface, if it's there at all. So then when it does, they say yes, it does to whatever degree, you want 2 things. With each, if there's a positive with any ADL, you always want 2 factors. You want to quantify it, scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, how bad is it when you do have it? Now, why do we need to quantify it? Well, from the patient's perspective, it helps to increase the awareness and the need from the patient's perspective when you quantify it. From your perspective, how important is quantification of every bowel marker? Extremely important. Establish the need for care, change, better, worse, same, refer out, change therapy, frequency, I mean, it's everything. You have to learn to start quantifying. Okay? So scan. Then, which motion? And get used to just saying the same thing. Forward, backward, left, or right. 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 Doesn't matter if I'm talking about sleeping, bathing, showering, it doesn't matter. Forward, backward, left, or right. Okay? So you always, if there's any pain or restriction in any of those activities, you always want that. Now, why do you want to know the motion? The motion personalizes it. It's the number one thing you can do is get the patient to quantify it and personalize the thing that's most important to them, the primary ADL. That's what establishes need the most. That's it, right there. And clinically, how important is it to understand the motion? That's part of your diagnostic protocol, is mechanism of injury and what motion causes the problem. That's part of your diagnosis, a major part of your diagnosis. Okay? So, in the ADL, use the words pain or restriction, at least 2 questions, second resistance, slight phraseology negative, quantify it if it's there, 1 to 10, which motion, forward, back, left, or right. And that's what they want. That's what the patients want. It's the highest motivation there is. You've quantified it, you've identified. By the way, after we do the ADLs, because there'll be typically more than one ADL that's painful restricted, then we have to find out which of those ADLs is most is affecting them the most, is most important to them. And I don't want to assume, I don't want to guess. I don't want to assume. I don't want to assume work is more important than, them being able to jog. I don't want to assume. They're the ones that are going to, I'll pay attention to physiological needs, but they're the ones that are going to be telling me what's the most important. So after I get the different ADLs, it's the same with chief complaints. I get all the chief complaints, I got to find out which one's the most important. Same with ADLs. I get all the main ADLs, I now want to find out which one is the most important ADL. And that's where the highest need is. The number one ADL, quantifying it on a scale of 10 makes it real, and which motion. That's what personalizes it. That's the number one thing that creates the need, the perceived need in the patient's mind the most. That's the pinnacle right there. That's why they're spending time or money. You better find it. So it would sound like this. Transition statement. Craig, let me take a few minutes now. I'm just finished OPPQRST, transition statement to ADLs. Craig, let me take a few minutes to ask you how your neck is affecting your activities of daily living, okay? Let's start with work. Do you have any pain or restrictions with your neck at work?
No.
Nothing at all?
No.
That was a second resistance. And what do I know about, if he said no on the second resistance, what's the probability it's not affecting him at work? Pretty high it's not. It's pretty accurate. Okay. Sleeping. How about sleeping? Now go one item at a time. Here's another clue. When you cluster, when you put them all together, in other words, if I said, is you having any pain or restrictions with work, sleep, bathing, showering, anything like that? Here's what you just did. You just minimized. You just allowed them to deny everything is what you just did. It's real easy for me to deny everything when you cluster it, but if it's one thing, Paul, are you wearing a checkered shirt? How hard is it going to be? I got a checkered shirt on. How hard is it going to be for me to say no to that now? You see? When you ask specifics, it's much harder to deny, and you have to take responsibility. So you don't want to cluster, okay? Because that's what will happen. You'll start clustering. And what you don't realize is it's too easy for them just to go, no, 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 no. Okay? So, sounds like this. So, Craig, let me ask you a few questions about how your neck's affecting your activities of daily living. So, let's start with work. Are you having any pain or restrictions with your neck at work? Nothing at all.
No.
And that's what my second resistance typically sounds like. It's a second push, is what it is, in a negative phraseology. That's what that was. Craig, how about sleep? Any pain or restrictions at all with sleep?
Yeah.
You do?
I have trouble sleeping.
Scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst. How much?
4.
4. Which motion when you sleep? Forward, backward, left, or right? Which motion do you have the neck pain first?
When I roll on my side.
When you roll to your side. So you said it's a 4 when you roll to your side. Right side or left side?
Right side.
Right side. Let's go into dressing. Okay? How about showering or bathing? Are you having any trouble with your neck showering?
No.
Bending backwards? No trouble at all?
No.
See, sometimes I'll match the activity that I know that there's a high probability with the activity. Like I already know extension is the last range of motion to clear up. That's why I pushed it a little harder right there. So let's go to showering. Any pain or restriction with showering with your neck?
No.
Not at all.
None.
Bathing, no problem at all?
No problem.
Okay, how about dressing? You having any neck problems with dressing?
Just putting on my shirt sometimes.
Okay, when you put your shirt on, scale of 1 to 10, how bad does it get?
2.
So 2, not too much. And then, so what motion is that? When you're putting it on this way?
Yeah.
Bending it over? Okay. So when you're bending forward. Okay, so bending forward, grade 2.
Put my arms to the sleep.
I got you. Let's switch now to activities inside your house, okay? How about cooking? Scale of 1 to 10, any neck pain with cooking?
No.
Not at all.
No.
Cleaning?
No.
No neck pain with cleaning?
No.
Cooking, laundry? You having any neck pain with laundry?
Sometimes when I iron.
When you what?
When I iron.
When you iron, okay. So a scale of 1 to 10? Laundry?
3.
3, ironing. So would you say that motion was more forward, back, left, or right?
Forward.
Forward. So scale of ironing, 3, forward. Okay. Let's go to outside the house activities. Are you having any pain or restrictions with house maintenance?
No.
Nothing at all. How about landscaping? No trouble landscaping? You can mow the lawn, hedges, do all that?
Yeah.
No problem.
Just mow the lawn.
Gardening's fine. Any trouble with gardening?
No.
Gardening's fine. Okay. All right, so let me ask you. So you said it was affecting you. You really didn't say it affecting you at work. You said it was at sleep. You said putting your shirt on. And nothing in the house in particular, and nothing outside the house.
Iron.
Or you did say ironing, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you. You said laundry, ironing. You said putting your shirt on and sleeping. Of those three, which one is bothering you the most, or you'd like to get back to normal the fastest?
Sleep.
Sleep. Okay, and you said on a scale of 1 to 10, that was, I think, a set of 4, didn't you?
4.
Okay, so sleep's the number one activity that's being restricted. All right. That's what that would have sounded like. That was an ADL. Those were the words, how I used it. You see how specific I was? How hard is it going to be for him to deny any one of those? How specific I was with a follow-up second negative phraseology. Do you see how tight that was?
Yeah.
That's how it's done. And by the way, he's the patient. How much did he like that?
He loved it.
You're the patient. How much do you love that I was that specific with you?
Yeah, it's good to know that you got all that information.
Right.
So, yeah.
Or would you rather me talk about subluxations now and how I can help your asthma and allergy and bedwetting?
Oh, I would like.
You guys laugh. Now you laugh. And that's what you do. That's what chiropractors do. They come in with neck pain and you start talking about asthma, allergy, and bedwetting. You laugh. And you wonder why you're at 8% utilization and a 67% negative name recognition after 120 years. That's why. Because they laugh at you.